know the basics of intellectual property, because this will help you to do better business. So let me first of all introduce the concept of intellectual property and intellectual property rights. When you have an idea of a new song, for example, you own something, that song. But in order for other people not to copy you, we have the copyright. So you cannot just copy someone else's artwork. In a similar way, when you have a technical invention, patents help to protect that technical knowledge. When you have a new trademark idea, let's say Coca-Cola, and you want other people not to use that trademark, you need someone that is the state, the country, the legal system to enforce your right, because you invented that trademark, you came up with that idea, you are the only one to use it. So depending on what kind of intellectual property you created, we have different intellectual property rights to give you protection. If you have a new design of a telephone, it's the industrial design legal system that will protect you. So with that short introduction to the field, let's go to the geography. So the geography that we will cover today is Southeast Asia. It's a region having about the same number of inhabitants as Europe. There are many young people, many dynamic people. So the future markets in Southeast Asia should be markets where every European keeps an eye on it, because this is where many people have more and more income, and more people are contributing to the economy. Let's start at home. Well, you are in Estonia, and maybe you have had a look at the website of your local office that has been created to register intellectual property rights. So in Tallinn, you can get all kinds of information about the field of intellectual property or industrial property, which is similar, but which excludes the field of copyright. So industrial property is mainly patents, trademarks, industrial designs. And when we include copyright, we usually talk about intellectual property. So I suggest to you to have a look at this website to get some introduction to the field of intellectual property rights. So let me explain what intellectual property is. You all know the concept of ownership. When you are a peasant and you put your potatoes into the ground, you invest your potatoes instead of eating them. And then after some time, you get new potatoes, more potatoes. And you are the owner of these potatoes, the new ones, because you created them. No one is doubting about it. And you can do with these new potatoes whatever you want. You can eat them, you can sell them, you can give them to other people to grow further potatoes. So the concept of property is a concept that humans have for a long time. Now, getting towards intellectual property, I would like to introduce the concept of physical property, tangible property. Like the potatoes, they are something that you can hold in your hands. And if you eat your potato or you sell it, it's gone. Intellectual property is different. So the physical property that has been important for business in the past were your machines, your buildings, the land that you owned, and things like gold coins are also property. Intellectual property nowadays is much, much more important. And the reason is that the value of a company nowadays is by 80%, in many cases, the value of intangible property. It's the know-how of the company. It is the network of your clients, the list of clients, the trust of your customers. That's what makes up the value of your company. So intellectual property rights, which include all of that, they give you the right to exclude others. Like when you own the potatoes, you have the right to exclude others from using your potatoes, eating them or throwing them away. If you have a patent for technology, you can exclude other people from using your technology. If you are the owner of a protected trademark and you have a brand, you create relationships with your clients. Coca-Cola, when you see a Coca-Cola sign wherever you are in the world, you know what this beverage is, whether you like it and that you like it. Designs, they protect the visual appearance of an object. Think back now, our mobile phones are very elegant, much more elegant than phones were many, many years ago, when you had all kinds of keyboards. And at that time, people could not imagine that it would be possible to have a phone without a keyboard. So here I'm using a design of a company north of Tallinn in Finland. The design of that phone can be protected. The trademark Nokia, even the startup tone, is protectable. The copyright of the software, ringtones, images, there are patented technologies inside the phone, and trade secrets. Trade secrets can be very important, and trade secrets in some way make you save money because you don't have to share your knowledge with other people, and you do not need to file an application with a trademark or patent office, and this is why it is in some way cheaper. When you want to get a patent to protect your technology, different from copyright, you need to do something. A copyright you get automatically for your photographs, but to get a patent, you have to file a patent with a patent granting authority. In order to be successful, you must have created something technical which solves a technical problem. And your solution must be novel. Therefore, keep your engineering results secret as long as you consider filing a patent. And you must file an application in order to get a protection by a patent. And unfortunately, you must do this in every country. The biggest hurdle usually is that a patent application needs to be something which is not obvious for a person skilled in the art. The basic idea of the patent system is that you disclose information, knowledge that you came up with. You share this with the public to enrich the total body of knowledge in the world. And for being so generous in some way, you get for a limited time protection in a country where you filed an application. So a patent application is something complicated to do, and you cannot do it yourself unless you have had some special training. I will not go into the details here of drafting a patent application, but what I would like to suggest to you, in order not to reinvent the wheel, have a look at patent applications in your field of technology in order to get information about solutions of problems that you might have. And besides the technical solutions, you will get all kinds of commercial information. Who is doing what? That can be very important. So for your country in Estonia, your patent office publishes patent applications and patents like the one that you see here on the screen. And you see there are many classes on the top right. These are like drawers, depending on the field of technology. Below that, you have some indication who is involved, who are the inventors, who are the people that filed. And on the left side, you see some dates, which are very important also. The technical information is inside, but on the front page you have an abstract, which you can see here in your local language, and you have a translation into English concerning this electro-optical element, which has been improved. So the contents of a patent document have identification information, like the issuing authority. Here we saw that it was the authority in Estonia. It has numbers to retrieve it. There are all kinds of names on such a document, the names of inventors, applicants and inventors might be people that you want to get in touch with. The priority date is important for assessing novelty and inventive step. And you see the country of protection. So if there is a patent in Estonia, you cannot just copy the technology without the consent of the owner. And what is protected is defined in the claims. So you have lots of technical information in such a patent document, and you can learn from that. So basically, a patent is a description of a technical innovation filed with the patent office. And as I show on this slide, it gives you the right to exclude others from using your innovation, which gives you a competitive advantage, because now with a patent, you can keep others outside of your market. This gives you more bargaining power. It can lead to a monopoly. You can have higher prices if you do not want to use the patent yourself. You can ask someone else to make use of it, and you give a license, like when you own a car and you are a company like Hertz, you are not using the car yourself, you rent it, you license it. And you can even use patents as guarantees in bank loans, and a patent is also good for advertising. It helps to increase the reputation of your company. You need lots of time when you want to get involved with patents. The most important information on this slide is do not publish before filing at home. So when you want to get protection in Vietnam, Thailand, or Singapore, file first at home in Estonia. And then you have some time, 6 months for trademarks and designs, 12 months for patents to file in foreign countries where you are in a situation that you claim the priority of the Estonian application. So what happens in between your Estonian application and the one in Singapore is not used against you in order to argue lack of novelty and inventive step. So after 18 months, the Estonian office publishes the invention, like does the authority IPOS in Singapore or the Vietnamese and the Thailand offices. And when the application is published, you have not yet a patent granted. It takes some time, several years, to get the grant of a patent, maybe 2 years on the average. And with that is the beginning of your right to exclude others. You can enforce the patent, you can attack competitors, and after a maximum of 20 years from the filing date, your right is ending, so anyone can use your patent. And different from potatoes, you can license your patent to many people. Your potatoes you only can sell to one person, to one restaurant. And the nice thing about intellectual property is that you can share it. So it's not consumed by the use of one person, like a potato is used by one person. So a patent or a music song can be used by many people. It's not consumed. So that's one function which is very important in the field of intellectual property. So I give you here a list of ideas what you should check when you enter a new market or any market. Do you have products that might be important in the future for your competitive edge? Can you keep it secret? Are you having or are you interested in having clients in Southeast Asia? And do you realize that protection is limited to the country where you filed an application? So as an Estonian, do not overlook the fact that your rights in Estonia are not automatically extended to Southeast Asia. So you need to understand the basics of protecting your technology or your trademarks or your designs. And when you invest in filing applications at home or in foreign countries, especially for trademarks, this can help you to increase your reputation. You need probably someone local in Thailand, Vietnam, or Singapore. And when you discuss with the locals, you should not forget that it might be wise to make special contracts like non-disclosure, non-usage, and non-circumvent agreements. And when trouble is coming up, someone is not respecting your rights, you have to enforce your intellectual property rights. And this is quite complicated. This is where you, at the latest, you need a local attorney assisting you in trying to stop that. And one important thing in this lecture that I want to get across to you is the use of free access to databases for searching for patents and trademarks. For trademarks, it helps you to find out whether your trademark still can be protected in a foreign country, whether someone else is trying to file a trademark similar to yours. But most importantly, you can find names of companies and inventors that you might want to get in contact with in order to cooperate with some local company or local inventors. And by doing these searches, you get good information about the situation in the market. You get information about the business of your competitors. So intellectual property rights have some principles, like the first one to file is the one to get it. First come, first serve. We have the principle of territoriality that I mentioned already. And for that reason, you need to file early in a foreign country. Early. You have 1 year for patents after the filing in Estonia and 6 months after the filing for a trademark in Estonia. Otherwise, you risk that your patent will not be novel again anymore, or that your trademark is filed by someone else who is a copycat. So the other important concept is that you are treated in Vietnam, Thailand, and Singapore as if you were a national. So you are not treated worse or badly in comparison to the locals. That's a nice feature in intellectual property rights, that everyone is entitled to have the same rights. After 20 years, patents expire, industrial designs in Singapore, for example, after 15 years, trademarks after 10 years. But trademarks can be renewed every 10 years. Patents cannot be renewed after 20 years, and industrial designs neither. So a trademark can have, theoretically, an eternal life, and trademarks like Coca-Cola, they have been around for many, many decades. And when you file, you start filing in your country, like Estonia. This is a national filing. You can file right away nationally in Singapore or in Thailand or Vietnam. You know that in Europe, we have a regional system for patents, but it's even better. There's an international system where filing in Estonia gets you your foot in the door of patent granting authorities around the world, to be more exact, in 153 countries, including Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. And the Madrid system is something similar for trademarks. With the filing of one trademark application in Tallinn, you can get going for protection in all 122 countries. The Hague system is less used around the globe. Only 91 countries, but including Singapore and Vietnam, unfortunately not Thailand. Here you see the map of the world. Everything is blue, where you can get an international patent application filed by doing something only in Tallinn. The international patent application is published like the one in Estonia. You have all kinds of information on the front page, which you can see here. And you see the applicants, you see the inventors, and this information can help you to do further searching and get in touch with the people, cooperate, offer them your technology, or ask whether you can use theirs. Here I have an international application filed by a Singaporean. So things go in both ways. A company in Estonia can make use of an international application to get the foot in the door of the Singaporean or the Vietnam or the office in Bangkok, and vice versa. An applicant in Singapore, like for example here, blockchain systems, by filing with IPOS in Singapore, they can get the filing done or as an equivalent legal outcome as if they had filed in all these countries that you hear on the right side. And you see also EE, which stands for Estonia. So this is quite powerful to make use of the PCT. And then in this application, you have some drawings like you see here. It's a drawing that shows you the technology, and this technical information cannot be used if the patent is granted, but you are allowed to build on that. And if you have an improvement idea, you might have a good argument to get in touch with the patent owner and offer cooperation. So the international trademark system is similar to the PCT. It's a convenient and cost-effective solution for registering and managing trademarks worldwide. 120 countries are part of the agreement, the Madrid Agreement, and this includes the countries Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, and also Philippines if you are interested in some other countries in the region. You can, by a centralized system, modify, renew, and expand your global trademark portfolio thanks to that system to which Estonia belongs for a long time. Let's have a look again at the map. And here I try to summarize in some way what country adheres to what international treaty. So the first line here is the PCT. You see Brunei, Indonesia, and also Cambodia, Laos. Well, Myanmar is in gray here. Myanmar is far, far behind everything, also for political reasons right now. Then Malaysia is a country where intellectual property has become more and more important. It's one of the tigers like the Philippines, Singapore, Vietnam, and Thailand. They all allow you to file an international application by doing steps in your home country. The Madrid system is a system for trademarks that can be used in the same countries. And in the last line, you see that the Hague system for filing design applications cannot be used in a number of countries, and only a minority of 4 countries out of the 10 allow you to use the Hague system. What do you do in case of infringement? If someone is copying your invention, copying your trademark, what can you do? Well, you can write them a letter yourself, but I would suggest that now you have to get in touch with some locals. You contact a local attorney in the country where this copycat is doing his or her business. And your local attorney in Singapore, Vietnam, or Thailand will prepare a letter in which the copycat is asked or informed that there is a trademark or a patent for you as an Estonian company that protects some technology or a trademark, let's say in Vietnam, and the letter requests the user of your trademark to tell you why they feel authorized to use it. Well, the answer might be, well, we had it before you, or your patent is not novel, therefore it cannot be enforced. And if you cannot find an agreement following that letter, there is private mediation via legal professionals that can be used. And there's also the possibility to use the WIPO Dispute Resolution Office in Singapore, where you can consider arbitration. And if all this does not help, then you have to take legal action, which can be done in the intellectual property offices. You might even need the help of the police, let's say in Thailand, to conduct raids where the police goes and find out where the shoes that infringe your intellectual property, your design, are stored, where they are produced, where they are sold. And in some countries in Southeast Asia, criminal prosecution plays a much more important role than we have in Europe. Civil litigation, that is mainly what is happening in Europe, is also possible in Southeast Asia. And what you also should know is that the customs in these countries, they can help you to block counterfeits. So when the customs officers is informed and you tell them when and where something is coming from some kind of copycat, let's say out of Taiwan or China into Singapore, the Singaporean police will help you to stop this. So here I give you an overview of the patent and trademark offices in the countries that we are thinking about this morning. Have a look at their websites. Singapore is the easiest because in Singapore, most people use English, even though further languages are used. When you take the subway, you see the signs in several languages. Thailand is more complicated. They have even different writing, different alphabet, but their website is also having a portion in English. In Vietnam, we have a similar problem with the language and the writing, but the website also has an English portion, and I give you here the link to that website. So have a look at these websites in order to get more information how the local system works. For the Thai office, I have shown here a trademark. Everyone knows Nokia. It's very close to Tallinn, where this trademark has been created, north of your country. And you see here the list of goods on the bottom is in Thai. You cannot read it really, but you can find out from the classification number 12 what it is. And nowadays we have automatic translation for many things. So even though you do not speak Thai and do not read Thai, nowadays it's possible with trademark searches to find out what has been difficult many years ago. So here you have another view of the trademark Nokia. You see when it was filed, you see the number, you see the address of the representative, the address of the applicant. So if this would be a trademark filed by someone which is different from the company of Nokia, they could get in touch with the filer or in touch with the office and tell them, hey, someone else filed our trademark, stop them from getting protection. The Vietnamese Patent Office also publishes interesting information about what is happening in Vietnam. And here I shows the handling of applications for industrial designs. they have also not only industrial designs, but patents, trademarks, geographical indications is something which I have not yet mentioned. When you have an area which is known for a particular agricultural product, and one famous one is maybe champagne in France. So never use the word champagne anywhere in the world for something which could be similar to a drink, even it's just a perfume. That is a case that happened. The people owning the geographical indication champagne will haunt you. Integrated circuits is a special field for people involved in electronics. So all of this can be protected in Vietnam, and Vietnam is a country which is catching up with the rest of the world quite quickly. So there are many, many opportunities to do business. Probably Singapore is the most advanced, and then countries like Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia are catching up quickly. Then is the Philippines, a little bit on the end might be Indonesia, Laos, and Myanmar is really the end. So the ASEAN region is quite active in promoting the ideas that intellectual property is useful for business. So they promote the intellectual property rights enforcement through sharing best practices, guidelines, and frameworks across the ASEAN to safeguard innovation. So the ASEAN region wants to promote innovation, like the European offices do the same thing, or the European Commission also has started some time ago programs to safeguard and improve innovation. And this master plan provides incentive for research and development efforts, as well as to acknowledge, recognize, and reward, for example, ICT experts. So they have a website which is quite nice, because on the first page you can click who you are. You say I am, and then I wish to. So you are a potential applicant and you wish to do this or that. So have a look at this. And one of the information slides or websites shows you what is going on. You see, on 21 April, there are two events happening. There is the ASEAN Working Group on Intellectual Property Cooperation meeting. So the ASEAN countries, similar like the European Union, they are cooperating quite a bit to improve the intellectual property system. And the Intellectual Property Office in Singapore gives you access to the annual report. There is an interesting IPOS, Intellectual Property Office of Singapore brochure, and the IP Hub Master Plan. So keep in mind that the locals are very much interested in intellectual property. I suggest to you to have a look at these websites to do your searches. And I mentioned already that patent information can help you to find partners, competitors, employees, and you should try to avoid infringing other people's rights by making sure that you do not copy them. And the website of the European Patent Office is shown here. The website of WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Office, is shown here, and you can play around with it free of charge. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. And I think my time is up, so I stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Rackette, for that informative presentation. As also Enterprise Estonia likes to emphasize that trademarks and patents are your assets, your company's assets, and you should really sort everything out before you start entering any other markets. And I really much enjoyed the potato reference because Estonia is also a very potato nation. We love potatoes, and I think we all could relate with the potato example. So thank you very much for that. And we are right on schedule. And I would like to give the screen over now to Mr. Henceval, who is the coordinator at Veebiseminar Helpdesk for Southeast Asia.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks a lot for having invited us to this webinar. I will share my screen so that you can see my presentation. I hope everything is okay. But you can see my slides.
Yes, so, everything works.
Thanks a lot. So I'm the coordinator of the Southeast Asia IPSME Helpdesk. So it's quite a long acronym for a European initiative. It is an initiative that is entirely financed by the European Commission, and it has an objective is to assist European SMEs and of course the smallest one, the startups, to protect and enforce their intellectual property rights when they are doing business in Southeast Asian countries. So I won't name the countries because I think Karl Rackette did it very well. We're talking about 10 countries in Southeast Asia. And what we do is that we provide free first-line confidential advice on intellectual property, meaning that all the services that are offered by the Southeast Asia IPSME Helpdesk are free of charge. We do awareness raising about IP matters in Southeast Asia affecting EU SMEs, meaning that we interact with European SMEs both in Europe and in Southeast Asia in order to raise their awareness about the importance of being protected. And this is to help SMEs to make informed decisions regarding their intellectual property. So just to set up, to explain you a bit the frame, how we work. So I am based in Brussels. We are coordinating the initiative from Brussels, and we are leading a consortium between Brussels, Germany and Portugal. So we have two partners in Germany and Portugal, and we have one partner in Southeast Asia, meaning that we have part of our team that is based in Vietnam within an organization called the European Chamber of Commerce, the EuroCham. And our colleagues in Vietnam are doing the same as we're doing in Europe, but they are interacting with European SMEs that are already in Southeast Asia. So the services are available to all EU SMEs, meaning that we don't work for big companies, because basically the bigger companies don't need us in order to find the right information, in order to protect their intellectual property. We work for SMEs, but in order to address SMEs, we work and we cooperate with European SME networks, with chambers of commerce, with the Enterprise Europe Network, for example. We also collaborate with clusters, with incubators, with regional authorities, any organization that is in relation with SMEs. So just to briefly to present you the services of the help desk. So first of all, the most interesting service for you as an individual company is the inquiry helpline. The inquiry helpline is a service that allows you to send us any inquiry. For example, I am an Estonian SME. I have a trademark registered in Estonia. I'm interested in the market of Vietnam, or simply I'm I'm planning to attend a trade fair in Singapore, and I'd like to know how I can protect my intellectual property in these countries. You just need to drop us an email. Behind the helpline, there is an IP business advisor. So we have in our team, we have a French lawyer specialized on intellectual property in Southeast Asia, and he is responsible for answering all the inquiries from the SMEs. And the information, you will receive it in 3 working days, and it's confidential and free of charge. Then you are free to interact with the business advisor directly to ask him any other inquiry. But we insist on this. We are a first line of assistance on intellectual property in Southeast Asia, meaning that we cannot go any further. And if the inquiry of a company goes beyond this, we will advise the company to see a lawyer, because as we are a service that is entirely free of charge, we cannot enter in competition with lawyers. We have a website. You have the link below, but I will come back on this later on. We have a newsletter that you can subscribe to. We deliver trainings and workshops, as well as webinar, such as the training that we are delivering today. For the trainings, we have a network of intellectual property business advisors, a network of lawyers that are based in Europe and in Southeast Asia, such as Karl Rackette, and that we hire for to deliver the trainings. We have also material in our website that is available for you. We have e-learning modules, and we have a wide range of publications. Informative materials on intellectual property in Southeast Asia. Either material on different type of intellectual property, for example, material on patent, on trademarks, on geographical indications, on trade secrets, copyright, and so on. You can also find material on per country. For example, if you want to know more about the intellectual property landscape of Thailand or of Singapore, and we also have some material that is related to the type of sector. And I will close my presentation by going a bit further, because all the services I've just explained you, the same services free of charge are available for other geographical areas. So the Southeast Asia IPSME Helpdesk is part of a network of five helpdesk dedicated to intellectual property. The first one, actually, the first one to be created by the European Commission is a helpdesk dedicated for intellectual property in Europe. Then the Commission decided to create another helpdesk specifically for China, so mainland China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Macau. Then came two helpdesk, one for intellectual property in Southeast Asia and intellectual property in Latin America. So, for example, how to protect a patent in Brazil, in Chile, in Argentina, in Mexico, in Colombia, and so on. And since December last year, we were joined by, let's say, we have a new kid in town. There is a new helpdesk specifically for India. And as you see in my slides, you have the address of the new website, and from this new website you can access the different geographical areas, and all the services are the same, free of charge. All these geographical areas, all the help desk have a helpline where you can ask questions about intellectual property in Southeast Asia. So I will close on this, and I encourage you to to send us your inquiries. Do not hesitate if you have any question. Either you contact us through the website. You have the link here. Either you can directly ask your question also to Mr. Rackette, and we will be pleased to answer them. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Yes, to echo that, please do contact the free support you have been provided by European Commission. But to move forward, I would like to ask you kindly, Mr. Mathieu Henceval, to stop sharing your screen.
Sure.
So then next speaker can, Mr. Daniel Spencer, can join us in. In the meantime, while we are changing the screens, I will also launch a poll. I will kindly ask you all to vote in which countries you are most interested to do business with. It helps us also to understand better your needs and wants. And other than that, please also ask your questions in the chat bot. And without further ado, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Daniel Spencer, and the screen is yours.
Great, thank you very much, Joanna, and thank you all for joining in the session today. It was very interesting to hear those presentations on IP. Always a tricky topic to cover, particularly when it's a region like Southeast Asia, which is quite diverse. So we'll switch gears a little bit and focus a bit more on business cases in terms of the practical aspects of launching a new business into Singapore, and then what you need to be aware of if you are considering setting up locally in this market. So in terms of why we have so many businesses looking at Singapore as a region or an interesting country to do business in, this slide here captures some of the reasons. And it's funny, yesterday I was speaking to one of your colleagues back in Estonia promoting Estonia as a destination for doing business. And it's very similar to the Singapore story. Tax is very attractive here. We have 0% tax on dividends if you're a shareholder of your own company, 0% tax on capital gains if you sell your company. But Singapore has strategically positioned itself in terms of being a hub for many other countries within this region through these double taxation agreements, and also encouraging new businesses to launch here through a generous startup tax exemption scheme. I'll show you that on the next slide. I won't go into too much detail on that, but we'll be showing the slides after this presentation. The other benefit of Singapore, unlike other countries, is that there is a small company audit exemption, unlike places such as Hong Kong, where every year you need to do an audit when you have a company. So what that just means practically, it's one less thing to worry about, one less thing to pay for. So again, another attractive reason why Singapore is a great place for business. We see that there's a lot of investment, particularly within Asia, a lot of investors from China. Everyone's looking to invest into new businesses. So if you've got a really exciting, innovative niche idea and you're good at pitching it, then Singapore is a good place to find people to give you money. We go to a lot of demo days, a lot of startups pitching, and I remember being at one where the guy next to me heard this pitch about this recycled rubber tires in terms of an innovative renewable solution. And after the demo day pitch, he walked up and invested $100,000 after hearing the pitch for the first time. So there's a lot of money in this region, and there's a lot of VCs, a lot of angels looking to put that money into great ideas. But again, the other really attractive thing of Singapore, if you are looking at Asia, is you can 100% own your own business, particularly if you're not a foreigner. So unlike places like Thailand, there's no 51% local ownership requirement. You as a foreigner can own your company 100%. And the last point there is Singapore is very straightforward when it comes to the rules and regulations, which is sometimes different in other countries. But the good thing is you can look online. If you need to get a license, they have a license portal where you can type in the license you need and it tells you exactly the requirements. If you need to bring staff to Singapore, there's different work visas you can apply for. And again, the criteria for those are listed on the website. IP, again, is a great place to have IP registered within Singapore. And then probably the only good news from the virus is in terms of Singapore bank accounts. So previously, if you were in Estonia and you wanted to set up a company in Singapore, you would have had to fly to Singapore to meet the bankers for a 30-minute bank meeting to open your bank account. Now the bankers are realizing no one can come here anymore. And so now even they've become a bit more innovative of how they allow for remote account opening. So this goes into a bit more detail on the taxes, which again, I won't go into too much detail, but you can see the top right is the exemption on the profit. So you only get taxed in Singapore on the profit that you bring back to Singapore. So the first $100,000 there is 75% tax exempt. So your effective tax rate is 4.25%, which is shown in the bottom left-hand side. And then the next 100,000 is 50% tax exempt, so 8.5%. And the corporate tax rate normally in Singapore is 17%. And the criteria to be eligible for this scheme is shown in the top left. So if you are considering Singapore as a location or even Asia, there's a number of different ways that you can enter into this market. The first is if you just wanted to get a feel for the market, you can find a local partner, particularly if your industry is quite niche and it's really built on relationships, because Asia is a place where networks and relationships is key. It's very hard for you to do business directly from Estonia into Singapore without actually having a network or someone who can be the face of your company here, because a lot of business in Asia is done over tea, over meetings, lunches, rather than a very transactional nature, which is very common for most European countries or even Australia, where I'm from. The second thing you could look to do is to put boots on the ground via a third-party payroll provider. So this would involve you not necessarily setting up your own entity or your own company here straight away, but there are these different providers where they can hire your own staff that you might send from Estonia or hire someone locally, and they pay the payroll for you. And they do all the local taxes, but the only catch with these types of providers is they charge 15 to 20% of their monthly salary. So it can be quite expensive if you're paying your staff here a lot of money. The other point to that is you could hire a local market specialist. And there's many of these types of companies in Asia who have the networks, they have the knowledge, they know where to go, and they would represent your products for you. They put your company hat on and they go out into the market, and they're multi-market. So they could be based in Singapore, but their teams could be accessing the Chinese market, the Thai market, the Vietnamese. The benefit is they speak the language and they have the networks. So again, another option to consider. And then the last option there is you could consider setting up a local company and going directly yourself. So in terms of setting up a private limited company or the company type, it's the most common structure. Last month, Sleek, we set up 260 new companies in 1 month, so it's high volume. And on average, each month, there's around 4,000 to 6,000 new companies set up in Singapore. So you can see there's a lot of people coming here for different reasons, for different business. 100% foreign ownership is possible, as we went through. You have a separate legal identity to the company, so if something goes wrong, then you will get sued for what's in your bank account. You have access to grants having a private limited company if you're eligible. You can also get different schemes that the government here has. So one of the schemes during COVID is that they've provided subsidies for hiring local Singaporean staff. So the government will actually pay up to sometimes 80% of someone's monthly salary just to encourage local employment. You also have an opportunity to get outside investment because, again, they'll be able to invest into your company. And the benefit about setting up a company is you can set one up very quickly. You can take a day to 3 days to set up. And also when you decide you don't need it anymore, you can close it down, which is called a strike off. So this is where Sleek came in. Similar to all of you, you have great ideas, you're solving a problem. Sleek was founded by 2 entrepreneurs who were French, who were in Singapore, and they were setting up multiple companies. And they found that the experience was very painful. There's 2,000 companies in Singapore offering this type of service because setting up a company in Asia and Singapore is not new. But the crazy thing was that everyone was doing it on paper and they were all doing it in a very inefficient way. And so Sleek decided to set up a digital platform which allowed you to set up a company completely online, similar to what you already have in Estonia, using technology such as digital signatures, which have been legal in Singapore since 2011, to actually sign everything you need to sign to register the business and then to run the business, meaning you don't have to come to Singapore, and also you don't need to send a physical piece of paper back to Europe and then back to Singapore again. And so the services that we offer is registering the business, providing everything you might need for a company, and you just pick from us, like you're shopping on Amazon, what you need and what you don't have. And so these here show the criteria of what you need to have if you are considering setting up a local entity here. You need at least one owner of the business, which can be foreign. It can be you yourself as an individual, or it could be your company. You need at least $1 paid up capital. So again, a very low barrier to entry to actually register the business. And this can be in any currency. So you don't have to make it in Singapore dollars. You could make it in euros or in another currency. A company secretary, which is our core business. So this is a person who goes to school and studies for 5 years to understand how to talk to the Singapore government, for doing things such as holding your annual general meeting, filing your annual return, and anytime you need to make changes to your company. So this is the role that we provide. And again, everything is digital. When you need to change a director, we would produce a board resolution, you sign it, we file it, it's done. You need a local resident director for your business. And so this is someone who is residing physically in Singapore, proven by a proof of residential address. And when you set up the company, this person needs to be a Singapore citizen or a permanent resident. And so later down the track, once your company is set up, if you decide to send someone from Estonia or hire a foreigner like myself in Singapore, then you can get a work visa that allows them to act as the local resident director. But they can't do that until the company is set up, because the company needs to sponsor that person. And the last thing is you need a local registered business address in Singapore. So once you've set up your company, which as I mentioned could take a day to 3 working days, the next thing that's important for you to know is that every company in Singapore needs to keep up with the annual compliance. And it's very simple to realize that there's 2 bodies you need to be aware of, called ACRA, which is the company regulator, where you would actually go to register your company. And there's IRIS, which is the company tax office. If you fail to meet their deadlines, and just like everything in life, there is fines and penalties. But the easy thing, probably the easiest thing to remember, is that all of the deadlines for your company are triggered by the end of financial year for your business. And so this shows you here a very high level example of a company that was incorporated this month. So we decided to register our business on the 10th of April. The unique thing about Singapore is that you can actually choose your end of financial year. So I know in Europe and in Australia, where I'm from, the end of financial years of companies are fixed. It's usually January to December or maybe June to July. But in Singapore, you can actually choose when you want your end of financial year to be. And the first end of financial year can be up to 18 months, but mostly it's 12 months. And the reason why is because of that startup tax exemption scheme at the beginning I showed you, where for the first 3 financial years of your business, you have exemption on profit. So of course you want to try and maximize that by having 3 full 12 months financial years. And then in terms of the deadlines, you can see that they all happen in the future for the previous financial year. So during the financial year, which is typically 12 months, from say the 10th of April to the 31st of May, all you're doing is you're doing your accounting, you're sending your invoices, you're buying people coffee, you're sending that receipt to your company secretary to keep track of. And then at the end of the year, once your financial year finishes, 3 months later, you need to prepare your first tax and accounting report, which is called your estimated chargeable income, which is applicable for all of your income you've made for that previous financial year. 3 months after that, you then have to hold your annual general meeting where all the shareholders come together and talk about all the profit you made. And at that meeting, you need to present the financial statements to the shareholders to show exactly the financial state of the company. Those financial statements are signed, and then a month later, they are filed as part of your annual return to the company regulator, ACRA. And then at the very end of the period, you need to prepare and submit your corporate tax return called a Form C or Form CS to the IRS, the company tax office. So again, all of this sleek we take care of for most of our clients, because people don't really care so much about taxes. They just want to know what they need to do, when they need to do it, and make sure it gets done so they don't get fined. Other key common pitfalls and obstacles that we see. So my day is mostly spent just talking to entrepreneurs and businesses from all over the world about their projects. It doesn't really matter what you do. The process is always the same. But some of the common pitfalls we see is trouble sometimes picking a suitable company name and a business activity. And the reason for that is in Singapore, some particular words and also particular business activities are regulated. For example, the word Singapore, if you plan to use that in your company name, which is very common, the Singapore government would want to know what you're doing first, because they want to make sure that the reputation that your company will have will actually reflect well on the country. And so what that could mean is if you try and register that name, it could delay your registration for up to 2 months. So again, maybe you want to change it from Singapore to SG. The business activity is also sometimes regulated. So every company needs to choose these codes called an SSIC company activity code. There's thousands of them. And the core purpose is just to announce to the government exactly what your business is doing. So how many dentists are there? How many people are growing mushrooms? How many people? It's very specific. So again, this is sometimes a bit of a tricky area to which code you should choose. The next is providing the right KYC documents or know your customer documents for setting up the company. And also later on, you can see in the bottom left, opening a corporate bank account. So again, we need to, as a corporate secretary, understand who you are. And so the common things that need to be provided is a proof of your ID, so a scanned copy of your passport, and also proof of residential address valid within the last 3 months. And we're finding currently, because everyone is kind of stuck in different countries, they can't get back to their home countries, some people are living in another country, it's hard sometimes to provide a proof of residential address within the last 3 months. Choosing the best end of financial year is another point. You can choose it to be 12 months from when you registered, but potentially you might want to actually align it with your company back in Estonia. So all the entities that you have in your group have the same end of financial year. That's completely fine. Applying for the correct licenses and permits. And again, Rob will be speaking later on, and he will be going a bit more into the particular cases for food and beverage. But again, this industry, sometimes there are particular activities where you do need to get a license before you can practice these activities in Singapore and also within the Asia region. Getting covered with good insurance. Insurance is always good. Putting in place the right legal agreements. Singapore, here all the companies are under the Singapore Companies Act, which is very unique from other countries and different legal systems. So what we see a lot is some clients will come into Singapore, but they'll get advice from a foreign lawyer. And the foreign lawyer might be a great lawyer, but they don't know Singapore law. So it's very important that if you do start to do business in Singapore, you need to put in place contractual agreements, shareholder agreements. If you hire people and want to give them parts of your company in terms of an employee share option plan, it's very good to get good advice. So again, with the number of companies we set up every month, we have some very great partners. So if you're interested to set up here and you're looking for particular contacts, please feel free to reach out. I'm very happy to share with you who we work with and who our clients work with, because there's many providers here and it's very hard to find sometimes the ones that are very aligned in terms of just being transparent, straight to the point, and also affordable. And the last thing there is the work visas. So Singapore, like many countries at the moment, is becoming very nationalistic. So if you're a foreigner looking to work in Singapore, it's very important that you understand exactly the steps to take, how much your salary should be, what the credentials should be in terms of the person. If it's a new business, the government scrutinizes it a bit more than if it was a business that's been running for a few years, because they're worried that people are setting up companies, sponsoring their own visa just so that they can live in Singapore, because it's a pretty great place to be based. And then the bank account. So in addition to setting up the company, for our clients, we make the process of the bank account as easy as possible. So in our platform, they click on I would like a bank, they choose which bank they would like. You can set up bank accounts with TransferWise or WorldFirst, which is similar to Revolut in Europe. We actually allow our clients to send to the bankers all of the documents the bankers would ask for, because we collect that from you anyway as the client. And then now some of the banks are allowing you to do a video call with the banker from Estonia or from overseas. So you don't have to actually come to Singapore, which is, again, a good time saver. So again, the platform that we have, which we register hundreds of companies every month, is free for you to access, to have a look at. The website has all the prices on it, so you can start to benchmark how much it would actually cost you to set up the company in Singapore. And on the website as well, under resources, we have so many free resources answering very common questions to doing business in this region, which I'm sure you probably have, that someone's asked us before. And those resources are always like a 2 or 3 minute read, so you don't have to spend your whole morning trying to understand a topic which can be covered quite quickly. So that's all from me. But as I mentioned, feel free to reach out. Happy to connect with you on LinkedIn and to share the contacts we have here in Singapore if it can help at all with your projects.
Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel Spencer. I hope that you all will be reading now this short information from Sleek website that was mentioned, because yeah, it's there's a lot of valuable information, and as you saw, there's also TransferWise mentioned. So it's a company that I'm sure we all know very well. So please do use this opportunity. And our final speaker, Mr. Hulme, thank you also for joining us and for waiting so patiently. I'm very excited to hear about your journey and expertise in Southeast Asia. The screen is yours.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to the colleagues here in Singapore. Great to join you. I thought, given the limited time that we have available, I could just go through some high-level themes. We're going to share the presentation afterwards, so some links, and trying to dovetail in and not repeat the information that you've received previously. So just a little bit about Beanstalk. We're a challenge-led innovation consultancy and ventures group. We have a broad focus across Asia Pacific on food production efficiency and waste resource management. Here in Singapore, that's manifested in vertical farming, infrastructure, genetics for CEA platforms, circular economy, upcycling, waste and ugly fruits and vegetables into snacks, as well as more mainstream projects. So you can sort of think about us as sort of sitting in that intersection or bridging between industry innovators and investors. So our clients are typically large corporate production or processing platforms or family enterprise, and looking to scale into new geographies, say from Australia, raise capital, access technology and innovation to solve challenges. So we're effectively problem solvers. I thought just a few high level themes or points. I mean, Asia's obviously growing. I guess that's the reason we're here. We believe, which is why we have a core focus on Asia Pacific. We think there's enough going on here with population and dietary changes and shift in supply chains and challenges around food production systems. And so that's why we're focused here. And obviously, you know, you're talking everything from smallholder farmers who might have, you know, half an acre, all the way through to state farms, which can be thousands of acres and equivalent to any of the largest farms in Europe or North America or Australia. Second point is technology is converging. Well, sometimes we talk about ag tech or food tech or fintech or med tech. Actually, what we're seeing is a convergence of technologies. And so whilst there is need for domain expertise within the technology sectors, when it comes to you know, creating solutions and solving challenges with corporate partners, often you'll find that there's a blockchain solution which also is focused on waste stream management and provenance for consumers, and there's a total interplay. So to that end, our focus is less about the technology, ironically, and more about solving the challenge and having an impact that builds a business case behind that, and then searching for the technology solutions. Sometimes we find those from within industries, but increasingly from adjacent industries, which might be more mature and where the capex or the investment's already sunk. Third is that hubs are emerging and maturing. So Singapore is an agri-food tech hub. I mean, if you said 5 years ago, it really didn't exist. The last 1.5 to 2 years, it's emerging into the point where we're in the process of establishing the Singapore Agri-Food Tech Association sometime this year. And that's dovetailed into Singapore's focus around investment from the government, driven by the government to lift roughly 90% of food imports, drop that to 70% by 2030. It sounds like a long way away, but it's only, well, it's around 8 years now. And to triple the food production here domestically is a big ask. So there's a lot of investment going into ag and food tech accelerators. We collaborate and we're mentoring startups coming through Big Idea Ventures and Grow. We work with Trendlines and the Yield Lab and SproutX and many others. Our clients tend to be more scale-ups because whilst we like to see and have our finger on the pulse with accelerators, we tend to like, you know, having commercial scale-ups which are ready to partner, get LOIs and commercial offtake agreements and scale for impact. And so 3 key themes, very high level, which are sort of top of mind for us here, but also relevant for Southeast Asia as a region. The first one is around production efficiency. So I see that e-agronom and maybe one other are really heavily invested in decision support infrastructure, in this case cereals. Other players here like Cultiva, who are operating in the Philippines and Indonesia. You've got Cropin out of India. So in-field decision support infrastructure that links agronomists to farmers, to banks, and creating common language around performance metrics is increasingly top of mind here. And predictive analytics and AI for not only crop efficiency, but also increasing into markets. Automation, the dirty, dangerous, dumb jobs. I see for Milram and CAFA, you guys are focused in this space as well. In those early days, I was involved previously with Bayer as country head in China. So we were working with DJI and XAG, two big drone manufacturers there, to mainstream initially for crop protection spraying, but increasingly for mapping, and I think in the future probably for simultaneous spot spraying. So I think there certainly where robotics are having a big play in the vertical farming systems, automating and removing scissor lifts, for instance, in vertical farming infrastructure, automated picking systems for things like strawberries and increasingly fruit, and basically providing more information, but also reducing labour components, in particular for where there's a safety hazard. Hyperlocal platforms, you've obviously read a lot about the development here in Singapore. It's driven by food security first and foremost, but with the limitations currently around energy, is probably 50% of OPEX for lighting and cooling. Innovation from maybe moving from LED systems into laser lighting systems, you'll see the cost per unit area come down, and then match with genetics, which are focused. Unfold is a group we work with, which is a JV between Temasek and Bayer, who are phenotyping vegetables specifically for vertical farming systems. So optimizing genetics to get a better return on investment, I think is a key focus there. The second area would be waste to earth, also part of the passion for us. We think there's lots of discussion in the market around, we have to produce 70% more food by 2050 and otherwise we'll all starve. We think it's rubbish. We think that basically up to 50% of the food that's produced from farm gate through to the household is thrown out. And there's opportunities to augment the production efficiency gains that we also work on with being much more efficient in a true circular economy approach. And that's one of the advantages of Singapore, because it's a small island, but there's also the demographics here for focus testing on circular systems, from upcycling with a company we work with called Confetti, who are sort of moving into the North American snack market for upcycled vegetables and mushrooms, but increasingly to anaerobic biodigestion and circular fertilizers in a hyperlocal market, not for export, present opportunities to reduce the carbon footprint and boost or bolster food security. And the third one is around logistics and cold chain. Across Asia, generally it's not great, and made even more complex because of the temperatures, and so spoilage and issues around adequate supply is a big problem. In addition to that, you've got issues around trust and provenance, and so blockchain platforms, whilst we don't tend to focus on the technology, are providing trust certificates and also opportunities for loyalty in programs that capture value and sort of help brand equity and brand growth, and also linkage to consumers. And the third theme is around health and nutrition. So this is an emerging area that we're also quite interested in. And the obvious one that's getting a lot of press at the moment is plant protein. Depending on where you sit and your point of view, you're either on the left-hand side, on the vegan side, or you're a meat and 3 vegetable 7 days a week consumer. The reality is it's actually probably mainstream flexitarian, somewhere in the middle. And so we believe that rather than plant protein being a panacea for all of things that are wrong with animal production, we think that we're going to need all forms of sustainable animal production. So the benchmark hurdle becomes then sustainability, and increasingly with intensive animal production systems around animal welfare. And so we think about what does that look like, and facilitating innovation in intensive production systems, focusing on regenerative farming and carbon farming markets, also working to support other protein alternatives in the algae space. There's an interesting company here, Sophie's Bionutrients, that do some really interesting work using molten spent grain and molasses as feedstock for chlorella algae species. You might have heard of Shiok Meats, which are producing seafood alternates. Just launched a cellular chicken here in Singapore. So actually the market and the government regulatory framework facilitated by investment houses such as Temasek, but the appetite, pardon the pun, for alternate food production systems driven by food security is actually quite open here in Singapore. Functional foods is a really interesting emerging sector where we can imagine that rather than vertical farms in the future focusing just on producing lettuce, that they are perhaps tagged or housed inside hospitals and aged care facilities, growing targeted specific meal plans for brain, gut, muscle recovery. And so if you're a hospital administrator looking to get a patient out of your facility one day earlier, or an aged care facility looking to keep your clients happy and healthy for longer, there's a real business case behind that. And we also think the insurance companies would be interested in. So there's still around this nutrient density, taste and price are still paramount. They're still the key drivers, even of new food systems and new food concepts, but it's still emerging. Some really key brief takeaways. I think you're probably gathered by now. We think Singapore is a great hub for a land and launch platform for businesses such as from Estonia coming in, and it's a combination of demographics and capital and governance and network and language and all of those things, but accessibility to adjacent markets, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, Indo, notwithstanding travel restrictions around COVID. We'll be happy to know that Singapore is ranked #1 on the Bloomberg Index of countries for COVID stability. So from that perspective, we think that Singapore is quite well placed when we get to a position where there's a majority vaccination and borders start to open. Just generally, just a general observation, looking through the profiles of all of the companies that have joined. If you're in a service-based or a technology-based business, and let's assume for a minute that all of you, are past the startup phase, but more into cap raise, market expansion, then that the focus on challenge-driven outcomes and not the technology, we think that's really key. We see lots and lots of technologies flying around post-accelerator without a home, and not raising because they've not been able to secure LOIs or commercial offtake agreements with key businesses, and so we can help with that. And the other thing is, particularly with COVID, even more importantly, leveraging networks in Singapore through the likes of Daniel and the AustCham team are quite proactive, but the chambers of commerce, including Estonia, are quite proactive here and collaborative. Wholesale partners, we think about food and the 10 or so food companies listed. You'd be looking for contracts with the likes of Commonwealth Capital or Unglis or Indaguna or FoodX. We can recommend a number of really good wholesale distributors you need them to partner with, and also because the offtake partners such as the HoReCa sector rely on and only do contracts with local distributors. Some key references just to close it out. Feed 9 Billion, they're a group focused on some more downstream food sustainability platforms, quite a cross-functional industry government sector approach. So visit their website. They've also got a startup manual, not that you guys are startups, but there's also some information there that supports the stuff that Daniel was going through. Food Industry Asia are the peak body for the multinationals across Asia Pacific. Matt Kovac, the exec director, is quite proactive, and there's a lot of resource material on that site. So jump into there, also specific for Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia. If you're looking to come and you've got scale and size, you can actually apply to join Food Industry Asia. And if you're going to do that and land here with a significant business, I'd recommend you do that. Singapore Food Agency, they're the government agency from regulatory, registration, food standards, investment, together with Enterprise Singapore. There's a lot of detail in there around the 30 by 30 strategy. CropLife Asia, the peak body for the multinational crop protection, seeds and fertilizer industry. Xiang He Tan, he's the executive director, also based here in Singapore. Grow Asia is a government-funded organisation, essentially an NGO, who are facilitating a network across Southeast Asia, I think 7 Southeast Asian countries. Again, a lot of information there around specific challenges for their partners outside of Singapore in the various countries. And finally, a shameless plug for Beanstalk. We partnered with CSIRO, the peak science body out of Australia, and Oz for Innovation to run the Graph Challenge. It's running currently in Vietnam. It's focused not on startups, but post-accelerated scale-ups. If you jump on that site, there's a lot of detail around the various sectors and the challenges they're trying to solve. We're right in the middle of running, in fact, I have to run one tonight from 6 to 7:30 here in Singapore, webinar promoting Philippines and raising awareness, in this case with Plug and Play tonight. So they're an accelerator, quite a global accelerator. But if you're interested to find out more information, jump on the site. And meanwhile, if you want to get in touch, just drop me a note and happy to have a chat. Hopefully that helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hulme. It was very interesting. I see that Daniel has a hand up. Would you like anything to add?
Oh, I was just clapping. I was very interesting.
Okay, clapping, yes, the virtual clapping. But thank you all the speakers once more. And we have a few more minutes before the official end of the webinar. So if anyone has any questions, you can also unmute yourself. You can also open your camera and we can e-meet you and you can ask your questions right now. So if anyone has any questions, please use this opportunity. If you don't want to speak up, don't want to open the microphone, if you cannot do so, then you can also type all of your questions into the chat box. We will try our best to get back to you as fast as possible. So right now is the time to let us know if you have any questions. Just again, small reminder. I will also be launching a poll to know what are your thoughts about the webinar. We would really appreciate your feedback for the future to improve our webinars even more, but I think we managed to do very well. Thank you so much, all the speakers, for finding the time, all the way from Singapore, from Belgium, from Germany. We really, really appreciate that you were able to come here and share with the Estonian companies your knowledge, expertise, and experiences. And if no one has any questions, then I guess we can move forward with our days and evenings, whichever part of the world we're located. So yeah, I guess we don't have any questions at the moment. I'll be sure to share all the slides with you. You can also contact all the speakers separately. Do follow them on LinkedIn as well. They are sharing valuable content there. Keep in touch. We are living in a difficult and strange times, but it's also helping us. The technology is helping us to still keep the connections going and growing. Yeah, thank you all from my side.
Thanks very much. Cheers, good to see you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.